Good morning, folks. If you're joining us early, welcome. Please familiarize yourselves with the controls of this live webinar, and we'll be with you right around 10:30. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the very last virtual event of 2020. My name is Lenny Orlov. I'm the Age-Friendly Seattle Program Coordinator with Seattle Human Services, and I'll be your host this morning. If you are joining us online, live or on YouTube, please take a moment to explore the closed captioning options by clicking on the gear under the video and selecting one of 7 languages: Arabic, Chinese, English, Filipino, Korean, Russian, or Vietnamese. On YouTube, there's also a subscribe button with a bell next to it. Clicking those makes the world a lot more age-friendly. No, really, try it and see what happens. Did you feel it? Well, and as an added bonus, you'll also now be the first to know when our local age-friendly community uploads another video full of information about resources and opportunities. December 10th is International Human Rights Day. Today and every day, we proclaim that Black Lives Matter and are committed to elevating the voices of immigrant and refugee elders of color. We would like to ask everyone to join us in a land acknowledgement. At Seattle Human Services, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. Please visit duwamishtribe.org to learn more about the Duwamish, people of the inside, who are still here, and find out how you can get involved. So what can you expect from Age-Friendly Seattle in 2021? Well, you can expect stories of health, tech, and resilience to continue being close to home, and for the coffee hours to stay civic and virtual. And maybe, just maybe, by the end of the year, we'll be able to actually pour you a cup of coffee and break bread with you in person. But regardless of location, our events will take place twice a month in the new year, instead of the weekly cadence you may be used to in 2020. And they will last a full hour now. A big shout out to the Seattle Public Library, who has signed on to sponsor both programs in 2021. A reminder that unlike Close to Home, which feature guests from community organizations, academia, and sometimes government departments of the city and county, the coffee hours have a very specific mission of connecting community elders with government decision makers. We are off the first week of January, so please mark your calendars for a coffee hour on January 21st. We're still finalizing our lineup, so stay tuned for the announcement in the coming weeks. Age-Friendly Seattle is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And on Instagram, we're there as Aging King County. And if you clicked on the subscribe button on YouTube, you remember what happens when you do that, right? So we do invite you to like, follow, subscribe, do all of that. It'll just help us stay connected better. But if you're not on social media, no problem. We then invite you to visit seattle.gov/age-friendly and sign up to receive updates by email. And to join these interactive webinars in 2021, you would still navigate to our virtual event hub, which is located at bit.ly/age-friendly-live. No spaces, but each word is capitalized. Visit there anytime, even before January 21st, to find program descriptions and a playlist with all the previous episodes, including special events, with subtitles in 7 languages, which do change from program to program. And breaking news, thanks to the very hard work of the Seattle IT department, you and your friends will still have the option to join from any phone by calling 206-686-8357 and entering the conference ID, which is 224-689-164. Again, the number that you would call at the time the event starts is 206-686-8357, and the conference ID is 224-689-164. And that information is available if you visit the main website and click the green Get Instructions button. But now I'd like to welcome you to the 2020 season finale of Close to Home. Today's program is an hour long and is dedicated fully to one community organization called NAPCA, National Asian Pacific Center on Aging. Our guests are Emiko Ormsbee from NAPCA's Community Resource Helpline, along with Jenna Holzberg and Teresa Cheung, both from NAPCA's Senior Community Service Employment Program. They will all present for a total of about 40 minutes and then answer questions for about 15. Live event Q&A and later comments on YouTube are at the heart of hashtag civic engagement in our virtual events. So we ask that you go ahead and already start typing in your comments and questions for our presenters, even while they're still speaking. It could be anything you'd like them to address based on what you already know about their organization or what you'd like to find out. On the live show, each time we stop for the Q&A, and this time it's only going to be that one time at the end, we'll always go to the phones first to make sure that we get the input from folks who are joining us that way. My colleagues from Seattle Human Services, Michael Taylor-Judd and Tara Shively, will be our moderators this morning. They will receive all of your input, and it will come in privately, and they may respond to you that way, and they will sometimes publish their answers in the live Q&A window. They will select some questions to read on the air and for the guests to respond to during the live broadcast, or in the YouTube comment, you can also get your questions answered that way after the program. With any questions, though, related to aging or disability, you can always call 1-844-348-5464 and speak to a Community Living Connections advocate. They can help locate a wide range of resources, including food and meals. This call will be free. Interpretation is available upon request, and services offered are professional, confidential, and most are also free of charge. Again, that number is 1-844-348-5464. You may also visit them on the web at communitylivingconnections.org to see the list of participating organizations in the network with links to their individual websites. Again, communitylivingconnections.org. Lastly, before turning it over to our friends from NAPCA, I wanted to remind you all about a resource that's there to help all of us navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. It's coronavirus.wy.gov, and according to this Washington State's coronavirus response website, staying home is still safest, with a big emphasis on restricting gatherings, especially now that the holidays are approaching. To prevent virus transmission and move us closer to that successful safe start that we've been talking about, we're encouraged to stay as close to home as possible. But when we do go out, we're asked to keep it quick, maintain social distancing, and wear a facial covering. This information is actually offered in 36 languages on this website. The take-home message, though, seems to be fewer, shorter, smaller, safer. If you scroll down on this website, you'll see additional information on things like what's open, where to get help, how to report a violation, things like that. And we really hope that you will tell your loved ones about this online resource, but that there is also a phone number, and it's the Washington Department of Health Assistance Hotline. That hotline operates Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the number is 1-800-525-0127. They're also open on Saturdays, Sundays, and observed state holidays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, that number is 1-800-525-0127. But maybe you just want to talk to somebody about stress that is related to COVID-19. In that case, there is a resource called Washington Listens. And that phone number is 1-833-681-0211. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and on weekends from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The number for Washington Listens is, again, 1-833-681-0211. So our first guest this morning is Emiko Ormsbee. Emiko Ormsbee is a Emmy recently graduated with her master's in social work from New York University and moved to Seattle in June to begin working with NAPCA. She now manages NAPCA's free community helpline for older adults and caregivers. Emmy, welcome to Seattle. I'm also a transplant from New York City, albeit from New York City to North Carolina and Georgia first, but I certainly can appreciate the difference between the East and West Coast. I hope you're settling in nicely in the rainy city, and very much appreciate you finding the time to stop by today. Please remember to unmute your microphone. You're now live on Close to Home.
Thank you, Lenny. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here, and we're honored to close out the 2020 Close to Home series. If we could go to our first slide, we'll jump right in. Thank you again, Lenny, for that introduction. My name is Emiko Ormsbee, and I am the Community Resource Manager at NAPCA, which means I essentially oversee our free community helpline, which I will tell you all about in just a minute. Next slide. Just to give you a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today, I will first give you an intro to NAPCA and what we do. I'll tell you a little bit more again about the Community Resource Helpline, and then I'll pass it along to Jenna, who will then talk about the Senior Community Service Employment Program, also known as SCSEP, because that is a bit of a mouthful. She'll give you an overview of SCSEP and then tell you a little bit more about what it would be like to serve as a SCSEP participant or as a community agency involved with SCSEP. And then Teresa will finish us off with how to partner with NAPCA and SCSEP specifically here in King County, or excuse me, in Seattle. And next slide. So NAPCA first is an acronym. It stands for the National Asian Pacific Center on Aging. We've been around actually now for over 41 years, and we serve as the nation's leading advocacy organization committed to the dignity, well-being, and quality of life for diverse elders, specifically the AAPI community, which stands for the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. That's not to say that, of course, we don't work with anyone else. We work with a number of diverse seniors. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. You can kind of split NAPCA's work into two major categories. The first is research, advocacy, and information. And we do this in a couple different ways. The first is that we have a really robust resource center on our website. And of course, it's free to the public. We have materials and studies that we've put together on a variety of topics, including dementia, cultural competency, elder abuse prevention, healthy aging, a variety of topics. And then we also have a pretty big database of resources for some of the largest cities in the US. This is a work in progress, so we're constantly adding new cities, but Seattle, of course, is at the top of that list, followed by LA, Chicago, a few of the other cities in which we have a presence. And in part, we use those resources with our community resource helpline. So this is a helpline that's free for older adults and caregivers. Again, this is a national resource, so we get calls from all over the country, and it's multilingual as well. I will go into a little bit more detail about that in a minute, but let's go on to the next slide. And the second part of NAPCA's work really focuses on employment and job training. And this is done through two federally funded programs for seniors aged 55 and older. So the first of these is the Senior Environmental Employment Program, short for SEE. And this places workers into positions within the Environmental Protection Agency. So that's the EPA. And this is done primarily in and around Seattle, Washington, and Chicago. And then the second program, which we're going to talk a bit more in depth about today, is the Senior Community Service Employment Program, which is also known as SCSEP. And as you can see, it provides hands-on training for low-income seniors. And we do this through partnering with local agencies, community-based organizations to create these entry-level training opportunities for folks, again, who are 55. So they come in and they get this on-the-job training, and it helps close some of these skill gaps and provides opportunities for sustainable employment moving forward. If we go to the next slide. A little more detail about the Community Resource Helpline. For those that are calling in, all I have is a photo of a previous helpline counselor in our office here in Seattle, and we're located downtown. So our helpline was reestablished this year in April in direct response to COVID. And actually within our first month, we received around 170 calls, which I think really demonstrates the need for in-language services and resource referrals, which is primarily what we're doing. We have counselors currently that speak Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Korean, and English. And again, this is a national resource, but because it's relatively new, it's very much a work in progress. So we're constantly adding resources, and the counselors and I are consistently working on creating what we call kind of these resource manuals from which we can help refer people and give them information no matter where they're calling from. So right now we have info for 10 of the largest cities in the US, but we're growing. We've got 2 more in the process at the moment. And again, these are updated on our website as well. So these are resources that are just free to the public, regardless of where you are. And something that I think is really unique about our helpline is that we are moving towards a model of seniors helping seniors. And we're doing that with the help of our SCSEP program, actually. So tomorrow, we're actually having 2 SCSEP participants start their training as helpline counselors. So they'll receive training in customer service and what it's like to work in a call center, so to speak, how to use all the technology that's involved. So they'll be gaining a lot of skills. And this is, again, the model that we're really moving into. So hopefully, we will eventually have the entire helpline staffed by folks who are 55 plus, assisting folks who are also 55 plus. And if we can move on to my next slide. On this slide, I have a picture of just a food bank and then another picture with a Medicare and Medicaid sign. And I threw this slide in here because I do get this question a lot. People are worried that maybe their questions aren't relevant to the resources that we're offering. In short, we can answer questions about anything. I put our top 5 call topics in here just to give you an idea of what people ask about. Our first, by far, is questions about Medicare, Medicaid, and health insurance. Those are confusing topics, even if you are a native English speaker, but if you're not, you can imagine they would be incredibly confusing. The same can be said for Social Security. So we get a lot of questions about, my Part D is too expensive, what should I do? Or, when can I change my Medicare Advantage plan? When should I start taking Social Security? Questions like this. And if we don't know the answer, we can refer you to an expert in your area that does. The topics really differ from week to week, but our next top calls are generally about housing and rent and utility expenses, food security in the form of food banks or maybe Meals on Wheels for loved ones, and then caregiving resources, which can include things like respite care for those looking for some time for themselves, or maybe in-home nursing care. It's such a wide variety of questions. So all of this just to say, if you have any questions at all, it doesn't matter if you live here in Seattle, if you have family that live in a different area, we're here and we're happy to help you find the answers that you need. So I'll pass it along, and I think Jenna's going to take over now.
Thank you very much, Emmy. And before we go to Jenna, I appreciate the overview of the helpline, and I just want to remind folks who are joining us online to please continue entering your thoughts in a live event Q&A or in the comments on YouTube. And if you're calling in today, I see a couple of you there, please hold your questions until we're finished with all of the presenters. So our next presenter is Jenna Holzberg. Jenna works as the Regional Project Director for NAPCA's Senior Community Service Employment Program, based actually in Chicago. She oversees program services at project sites in Seattle, across the state of Illinois, as well as in New York City, Boston, and Philadelphia. I'm pretty familiar with that with those cities that were listed there at the end, especially New York. So definitely appreciate you joining us from from across the miles. So if you remember to unmute your microphone, you'll be live on Close to Home.
Hi. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you for that introduction. And Emmy, thank you for that overview about the helpline. We are very excited about the helpline and then the future collaboration that our program is going to be doing with the helpline through these training opportunities. So you can go ahead. There we go. So my first slide here is giving a brief overview of the history of this amazing program that I'm very proud to have worked with for the past 11 years. This is called the Senior Community Service Employment Program, also known as SCSEP, SCSEP. The pictures that you see on this slide are two pictures. One from one of the very first program participants. This program started in 1965, and it was first known as the Green Thumb Project, started by President Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty campaign. This picture on the top is of a man working with the Green Thumb Project, and the picture on the bottom is one of our program participants in Seattle, taken very recently. So you can see from 1965 to 2020, this program has been around. So going through a little bit of the history of this program, as I said, it started as the Green Thumb Project in 1965, and then in 1969, it became part of the U.S. Department of Labor. So then it officially became a workforce development, federally funded workforce development program. In 1970 is when the name changed to the Senior Community Service Employment Program. It's also known as the Title V program. So some of you that are on and listening and watching this, you may have heard of this program before, known as the Title V program. That is because it is Title V of the Older Americans Act. So it has grown tremendously since its founding in 1965, starting at 280 participants in only 4 states. Now it serves over 31,000 participants across all United States and all U.S. territories. Our organization, NAPCA, is one of 16 national grantees that are funded by the U.S. Department of Labor with this program. And we're one of 2 grantees that are specifically minority focused, meaning that we provide services to the minority population, the Asian American Pacific Islander community. And where like we've mentioned before, we are based here in Seattle. So we do have program services here in King County. Next slide, please. So one thing that I find really amazing about this program is that this is the longest running, continuously funded federal workforce development program in the country. And it is the only federally funded workforce program that is specifically designed for mature adults. So it's a very special program, and it's very, very important, especially right now as we're experiencing tremendous amounts of unemployment across the country, and older workers are getting hit incredibly hard with it. It is so important that people know about this program, and this program continues to get funded at the federal level so it can keep serving our seniors in need. Now, a little bit about the purpose of this program. The purpose of this program is to provide a subsidized skills. So it's a paid training, a subsidized wage, skill training for our low-income seniors. Another purpose is that it provides a path to economic self-sufficiency for our program participants. This economic self-sufficiency can be defined in many different ways. Each person is different. Some people define economic self-sufficiency as getting a full-time job with benefits. Others just want something to augment their Social Security income and a part-time job, whereas others, they just need the security of making sure that they have the food benefits that they need and the housing that they need. We work with all of our seniors to make sure that they are economically self-sufficient with this program. Next slide, please. So eligibility, this is always a very, very important part of the program, is understanding who can be eligible for this program. Because this is a federally funded workforce program, we have all sorts of rules and regulations associated with it. And that is certainly part of the eligibility process. So the baseline eligibility that one needs in order to be deemed eligible to get enrolled is they must be an individual that is 55 years of age or better, and they must have a qualifying level of income. So we operate based on 125% of the federal poverty line. So as long as one's family size income is at or below 125%, then you're good to go. Individuals must be currently unemployed or retired. So if someone has a part-time job, even if it's not one that they particularly like or that they're not earning as much as they'd like to, unfortunately, that does exclude them from the program. So one must be unemployed or retired. So basically not working. Additionally, an individual must desire to learn new skills and obtain employment coming into the program. This program is all about learning and growing, and we want to see our participants succeed. Additionally, individuals must have the ability to engage in community service training. So traditionally, pre-COVID, this would be on-site training at our community with our community partner agencies. Right now, because of COVID, we're still providing services, we're still enrolling people, and we are still training people. All of this training is occurring remotely right now. So we have the ability to actually provide community service training remotely to our participants. So this is a really cool way that we have been able to change and pivot the program a little bit in response to the changes of our environment. Next slide, please. Now about our partner agencies. So as Emmy had mentioned, we work with partner organizations with this program. So with our partner agencies, what we do is we partner with nonprofit or government agencies to provide basically entry-level training placements for our program participants. So these entry-level training placements allow opportunities for our participants to gain new skills, to build confidence, and to make them more marketable in the workplace. This training is paid for by NAPCA, so it is at no cost to the community organization that we're partnering with. And we are looking to create additional partnerships within Seattle. So to become a partner agency, or also known as a host agency is another name that we use, an organization must commit to provide training and supervision to our program participants. And they also must commit to communicating and working in partnership with our NAPCA SCSEP staff so we can work together to meet the needs, the training needs, the employment needs, the social development needs of our program participants. And I think it is, the next slide is Teresa.
Thank you so much for introducing us to this program, Jenna. We appreciate the overview of history and eligibility of the employment program. We'll next learn about NAPCA's plans to grow the program in the Seattle area. But again, for our online attendees, I see there's a couple of questions there already, which is great. Please continue entering them for either the previous two speakers, Emmy or Jenna, or for Teresa, who is about to come to the virtual podium here. And again, if you're calling in today, please do hold your questions until we're finished with our final presentation. So our next guest is Teresa Cheung. Teresa is NAPCA's how do I say that correctly? I don't want to SCSEP or SCSEP.
CSEP, yes.
CSEP, thank you. Here comes my Russian accent on full display. So CSEP case manager here in Seattle. She has recently relocated back from Asia and speaks Cantonese and Mandarin. You know, Teresa, I only wish we had either of these languages as an option for captioning, or better yet, voice interpretation, but we currently do not. But we are discussing additional options with the Seattle IT department for 2021. So there's hoping for something. But today we very much appreciate you being here. Please remember to unmute your microphone. You are now live and close to home.
Thanks, Lenny, for the introductions, and thanks, Jenna. So if we can just go to the next slide. Thanks. So as mentioned earlier, my name is Teresa Cheung, and I'm actually based here in Seattle, downtown Seattle. And so our CSEP program is actually growing, and we have actually just recently rewarded from the Department of Labor for additional funds on our CSEP services in both King and Pierce County to serve more AAPI populations. So our goal is actually enrolled about 40 new participants by the end of February. And we are actually targeted to partner with 15 new additional nonprofit and government agency, so that we can actually provide more training opportunities to our participants. Next slide, please. So in order for us to actually provide services to our participants, to have them to be more successful in the workplace, in the workforce, we actually provided training to them with minimum wages for up to 20 hours per week. And we also have the participants to develop their individual employment plans and conduct any skills assessment to determine which job is suitable for them based on their skill sets. And we also help them for any job search, starting from building their resumes to getting referrals to any GED or English or any like ESL classes for the non-English speakers, like any non-speaking participant, to building their their interview preparations. So in addition to the job placement, we also provide like supportive services, such as addressing additional needs on the transportation needs and housing and utility, etc. So with all these like opportunities, I just want to let you guys know that we have recently partnered with CVS and also Madonna in both the LA and Chicago sites So we are very excited to actually bring this employment opportunities here in Seattle. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? So for the agency, so as we mentioned earlier, we were trying to partner with more additional host agency by next year. So as Jenna mentioned earlier, the goal for the agency is to have them committed to provide on-site training and supervision to our SCSEP participants, and it's actually no cost to them. And due to the pandemic, we actually, like currently, we do have a participant working at a host agency right now. I'm sorry, at a host agency offline right now, remotely doing the translations. So they just working remotely. And we are actually currently working with 15 local nonprofit organizations here in downtown Seattle. And just to name a few, we actually work with the food banks, such as the Pike Street Market and St. Mary's. We also work with the CISC, Korean Women Association, and the SEMA Childcare. Next slide, please.
I think the slide got advanced a little bit too far. You have to go back one.
Okay, can you go back one? Yeah. So we, like as Amy mentioned earlier, we have this like the community resources offline programs, so which we currently is still in work in progress. But as Amy mentioned earlier, we actually I guess she's actually bringing 2 people on board tomorrow. So with the community resources offline training program, is actually provides like a remote training environment to our participants. And also with that opportunity, the helpline counselor can also advance on their Microsoft Office skills, such as the Excel and Word document, PowerPoint, etc. And because this is like it's actually provide translation services to the people who actually called in. So that will actually advance the participant translation skills as well. So with this opportunity, working from home and then working from home remotely, and then this also provides opportunity for the participant to advance their skill sets. So this would be a very good opportunity for our participants. Next slide, please. So if anyone are interested in any of these opportunities, like the community resources helpline opportunities, or if they are interested in being the partners with NAPCA, please reach out to me, because I'm actually here in Seattle, and this is my contact informations. And you're also welcome to reach out to my colleagues, Emiko and Jenna as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I also, of course, thank you, Jenna and Emmy, for your earlier presentations. I shouldn't forget to give a special thank you to June Bang, NAPCA's Chief Executive Officer, first of all, for making this possible, but also for being a frequent attendee of our sister program that I mentioned earlier, the Civic Coffee Hour. You know, the program that's been around for over a decade, and I know that June, if you're watching, we've seen you at a lot of those over the years. So thank you for being there in person and now virtually. So for June and all of our live online viewers, now is again a great time to type anything that's on your mind in the moderated Q&A. We do have a couple of questions there already. We welcome you to add more, but right now we are going to go to the phone lines and see what folks might be, what kind of questions or comments might they have on the phone. All right, so if you're joining us on the phone, the lines are open now. You may need to press *6 to unmute yourself, but I am hearing something there. So you're live on the program. What is your question or comment? All right. Well, thank you again very much for joining us on the phone. We might have an opportunity to come back to you again if you think of a question, but we will talk to you in a little bit. All right. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Michael, whom I introduced a little bit earlier, to see what questions came through in the online Q&A. Michael?
Hi, Lenny. Yeah, we published a couple that came in while our speakers were speaking. First question that came in is, they said, your local resource list looks really good, especially the translated materials. And they showed the link on your website that they were looking at. And they say, I'm wondering why the transportation section does not include ORCA, which is our local transit pass, and regional reduced fare permit info.
Hi, this is Emmy again. Great question. My only answer is that, again, this is a work in progress, and that was an oversight. So we'll make sure those are added by the end of the day. Thank you for pointing that out to us.
Great, thanks a lot. Next question, and we'll see if I get your acronym right. I didn't hear what you pay per hour in SCSEP. Is it minimum wage?
Yeah, it's the minimum wage. So right now in Seattle, it's like 16.34, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. And a follow-up question. Someone said, are those jobs temporary? And if so, for how long?
So that's a good question. All of these placements are actually trainings. They're called training placements. They're not called jobs. So all of them are technically temporary. The goal is that you go through 1, 2, sometimes even 3 of these different temporary training placements, skilling up, learning new things, networking, building your professional network, so that at the end of your time in the program, you'll be able to obtain a job, and then that job would ideally then be permanent. And the longest amount of time that someone can be in our program, be enrolled in the SCSEP program, is 48 months, or the equivalent of 4 years. So during that time, one could theoretically go through multiple different training experiences, depending on what their goals are and what their training needs are and what their employment goals are.
Thank you. And double checking to see if any new questions came in. I don't see anything in the queue, Lenny, so I'll turn it back over to you.
That sounds good, Michael. So in that case, I do have a question myself. So over, this past year, we've worked with a number of community members, but also community organizations. And as we got further along in 2020, some of them have talked about partially reopening, and that ranges from, our partner, the Seattle Public Library, that's opening up some branches. We've also had some agencies that are members of the Community Living Connections network that I was talking about earlier. And some of them talked about installing, clear dividers and, socially distant waiting rooms. I'm curious if NAPCA has any, what is sort of NAPCA's approach to reopening if you're doing that during a pandemic? And I don't know who would like to take that. Maybe it depends on the region, right? So. Yeah,
I can take this. This is Jenna. Because I've been working on that for all of our direct service offices in Chicago, Seattle, and Los Angeles. So right now, we're 100% remote. So all of our interactions with our program participants are over the telephone or via email or through video chat through Zoom or WeChat. So that is how we connect and provide our services to our program participants. Understanding that there are some participants that, that's still a challenge to reach. We can meet one-on-one with people, but our offices in general are closed, so it would have to be by appointment only. And we have PPE that we require everyone to wear. We do temperature checks when people come into the office. In addition to that, we are very much tied into the COVID restrictions of our community partners. So if our training sites, our host agency, our partner agencies, if they're closed, then our program participants are not going to be going into training every day. So then we provide remote training through the internet, through workbook packets that we send to them to work on, so that people are still engaged in the program and still working towards completing whatever goals that they can. And we really are looking to establish additional relationships with ESL providers that do online remote ESL classes, so we can connect our limited English speakers to that. So trying to really leverage the technology within the limitations that we and our program participants have. So that's how we are currently approaching this. In addition to this, we have established COVID metrics that we're following, where even if a host agency or a partner agency is open, because there are some food banks that are open, they have to be open to continue providing services to the community, and these are training locations for our program participants. We have established public health metrics for our agency to make a determination of when we pull participants out of training and kind of keep them home, and when it's safe for them to return back. So right now in Seattle, we're at the point where everybody is home, just because of abundance of safety regarding COVID cases increasing. And that is the case in almost all of our sites across the country, with the exception of a few sites out in the East Coast.
Wow, all right. Thank you. That's a great overview, and I think it's an important question because we often get asked that question. How does this all operate remotely? So thank you for telling us a little bit about that. I also wanted to, in the time we have remaining, to turn it back over to Emmy and Teresa. You've been here in Seattle. A number of agencies in the Community Living Connections network that the City of Seattle and King County supports do work with the API community. And what is the best way for them to become partner agencies with you if they aren't already? I mean, if they are already, great. But if they're not, what can agencies do? We can put your contact information there back on the screen. But what is sort of the process for getting connected with you to work on the SCSEP program during these challenging times and as we move forward into 2021? I believe, Teresa, would you like to take that question?
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, they can either call me or send me an email, which is like teresa@napca.org. And so what happened is, when I receive that information, I will try to set up like a video call with them, either through Microsoft Teams or Zoom, depends on what the company is using. And usually we will just go through all the guidelines. We just want to make sure that if, for instance, if they are provide like a virtual opportunities for our participants, we would like to make sure that our participants have the right tools. For instance, computers, laptops. If the participant does not have those tools, are they able to provide that information? I mean, are they able to provide those devices for them, etc.? And then we can go from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And we will definitely be sending a recording of this program to folks in the network for whom it may be appropriate to reach out to you. And hopefully you'll hear from some community members. Before we get to the closing statement, what other, I guess, parting thoughts do either of the three of you have for folks that are tuning in right now?
For myself, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, Lenny. This is amazing. Great way for us to connect remotely. We're really hoping to build our community of partners. So please reach out to us. And additionally, I want to just let everyone know that we are hiring right now for a project director for the CSEP program in our Seattle office. So anybody who has any sort of experience working with mature adults and or working in workforce development, please go on to Indeed.com and just type in NAPCA and the job lead will come up. Alternatively, you can email me as well. And my email is there, jenna@napca.org. So thank you. We're so excited to connect with you guys, with everyone who's on the phone and watching.
And I'll just add one more thing if I can. Thank you again, Lenny. Thanks for having us. It's been really great. I do have flyers available. If anyone is interested, it has Teresa's contact info if you're interested in becoming a CSEP host site or working as a CSEP participant. It also has a bunch of information about the helpline and numbers to call. So if you're interested in receiving that, please feel free to leave your email address or your phone number, and one of us can reach out to you via phone if you don't have an email. We also have it in English, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Korean.
Excellent. Thank you so much for offering to provide information not in a non-digital way. That's so important, we find nowadays and always. All right. Well, thank you again all so much. Your contact information is on the slide and has been posted in the chat for everyone. Well, that's all we have time for today and this year. And what a year it has been. With my sincere gratitude to Emmy, Jenna, Teresa, and more than 80 other guests that came through our virtual studio, I'm actually also realizing that there's so many more folks who supported this effort behind the scenes. Even in addition to Michael and Tara, thank you, by the way, at least a dozen other City of Seattle colleagues have contributed in a very significant way. Most notably, Andrea Yip, Irene Stewart, and Mary Pat O'Leary early on, especially. And of course, we could, never do it without you, our audience, and our family. And it is to you that I take a humble bow. And, I invite you to come back again in 2021 and see what we have in store for you next year. And right now, join our virtual community by subscribing to our channel. It's called Aging King County on YouTube. A reminder again that for any questions, with any questions about aging or disability, and that includes caregiver support, employment, you name it, you can always turn to Community Living Connections Network, which is, again, supported by the City of Seattle and King County. Call them at 1-844-348-5464 or visit them on the web at communitylivingconnections.org. Thank you. It's been a challenging year in many respects. And, Age Friendly Seattle hopes that you'll have a safe and meaningful holiday season. Take care, be well, stay socially and civically engaged, and we'll see you again and your friends in 2021.